Hello, Husker fans. This is the second installment of the Big Red Roundtable, a panel discussion about all things Husker football that's fueled by an assortment of beverages and features the unholy alliance of two podcasts, namely Scott and I from Generation Red and the Cousins Three, Justin, Derek, and Tyler from the Husker Cuzcast Sports Show. Well, guys, glad to see you guys again. It's good to be back on the stream with you, and I'm really looking forward to the less cluttered list of topics we have tonight. How about you guys?
Can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. But first, got to get this in.
There you go. I was waiting. I tried to give you space, but apparently you didn't catch the cue.
Had to finish that Yingling first.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, now we're on to the hydration beer. So yeah, when I say less cluttered, that means that we have 3 topics tonight instead of 6 like last month, because last month, well, I think we tried to tackle a little bit too much, and we might have missed a couple tackles along the way, even though we podcasted for dang near 2 hours. So we thought, Justin and I talked about it a little bit in some direct messages, and we thought 3 topics was a better way to go. That way we can focus on the fundamentals, pay attention to some of those details, as Coach Frost likes to say, and maybe, just maybe, when this is all over with, we will have squared these 3 sumbitches up and taken them to the ground.
That's right.
Yeah, I know. That was a really cheesy football metaphor, and it wasn't all that good. So, but that's what I do best: cheese and not very good. So,
I appreciate it.
and I'm not sorry either. And joining us tonight to discuss these topics, if I can get my mouse to cooperate, is Giovanni Perez from the Clutch Sports Network on Twitter. You can follow him at Clutch_Huskers and the network at Clutch_SN. Welcome to the roundtable, Giovanni, and please do us a favor and take a few moments to tell everyone what the Clutch Sports Network does and what your role in it is.
I'm the Huskers, the Nebraska affiliate for them. It's similar to FQ Sports. They pretty much just have fans who are interested in representing a team take over the account. I started pretty late. I really started in December. Born and raised in Nebraska, so I asked them if they. I had my sister actually ask if they had a Nebraska affiliate, and they were looking for one. And as long as you stay out of politics and just keep it sports related, they'll keep you.
That's cool. So you just got into it in December, but you've been a lifelong Husker fan then?
I'm from Papillion. Yeah, I grew up in Nebraska. Yeah, and then I left to attend Michigan and ended up becoming a pharmacist. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, doggone it, we're really glad to have you with us tonight, and we hope you enjoy participating in the discussion. I know the cousins tend to get a little bit lively, but don't worry, they mean no harm and they don't bite. So, speaking of which, guys, you think we're ready to get to it?
Let's do it.
All right,
Let's go.
Here we go. All righty, topic number 1, obviously, is the 2022 high school recruiting class. It is, just a couple of quick factoids, the lowest rated class in Frost tenure, ranked number 41 nationally, number 10 in the Big Ten, and the average player rating is .867. However, the coaching staff did close pretty strong by adding 2 4-star recruits on signing day. A.J. Allen, the running back that flipped from TCU, probably because Brian Applewhite's our coach. I'd say he did a good job bringing him in. And then Janaran Bonner, another member of the all-name team, along with Dakotas Crawford at wide receiver, flipped from Georgia Tech, which that's an interesting story. I don't know if you caught some of the story, but they brought him in secretly like a week before signing day. Nobody had any idea that guy was even in town.
Oh,
And they kept it that quiet. That's pretty impressive. And even the recruiting services had no idea he was on their radar until like 2 days before signing day. So that's what we've got. We've got a 41st. Well, I think we were ranked in the 50s before those 2 guys committed on Wednesday. So what we're going to do right out of the gate is we're going to go around the table, starting with Giovanni. Since you are our guest tonight, we're going to start with you. I'd like to get you to give us your overall thoughts on this recruiting class of high school players only. And then when you're done, go ahead and give the class a letter grade, if you would.
Okay. Overall, I like the class. I wasn't looking at the rankings this time because in previous classes, they've had the highest possible rankings and the classes fell apart within 2 years.
Yeah.
And this class was different. We had 4 new offensive coaches, and a lot of these players are tailored to just the ties to those coaches. They're following the coaches, as opposed to the previous staff that had seems like 3 years experience max as head coaches. But they added more offensive players than I expected. If they're overhauling wide receiver, cornerback. We got some extra running backs. I'm assuming they expect attrition. But I like the ties. I'm hoping that's the reason why they'll stay, whether it's ties to Applewhite or ties to Joseph. Whipple had ties to Purdy. He recruited him out of high school. So I like they've had a scouting of these guys for a long time. So it's more system fits than before, and it was just flat out rankings. More like hustling to get these guys to sign, and then they left. So I like that. I like the versatility they added as far as the athletes, the safeties, and the corners. They have good size, and they're interchangeable. They could be safeties, they could be corners, they can play press, they can play nickel. So I like the versatility. I like the running backs that they added. I don't believe Allen, at least, would have signed with Nebraska if it wasn't for Applewhite. We have some players in this class that you mentioned the one from Georgia Tech. These guys wouldn't have signed with the previous class. We have more experience, coaches, better track record. Overall, it's fine. There's several players I like. I like Gold. Gold's a guy that I would assume would have went to Penn State. New Jersey, and with his offers and with his size, he's very physical, and he anticipates plays well. I like Androff as well, tight end, lower rated guy. His high school predominantly ran the ball. He's a really good blocker, and he's very athletic, quick, good off the line. He may evolve into an offensive lineman. You never know. But even the lowest rated guy, Jenkins from New Jersey, he was Ramir Johnson's teammate. So hopefully, that'll keep him at least in the system for a while. We just can't keep losing guys. Attrition is starting to hurt this team. He's going to try to be an offensive lineman, but watching his film, he's much better as a defensive tackle. Really good at nose guard, stopping the run. Pretty disruptive. But overall, it's fine considering we have immediate needs and we have 4 new coaches and they want to bring in their guys. And the only guy I can say so far that hasn't brought in his guys is Raiola. He hasn't. How many linemen did they bring in? Maybe 1.5. The other coaches brought in.
you got one in high school, but I think he was already committed before Raiola was hired.
Yeah, I was referring just to high school, not the 2 transfers. But I wanted to see foundational pieces. I want to see.
Me too.
Some defensive tackle, just guys on the lines, at least 2 linemen coming out of high school, guys he can develop. They didn't go for that. They decided to go with more skill positions, which you've seen before. A ton of wide receivers, ton of running backs. That hasn't worked so far, but I just believe with the new staff we have, with their experience, with their ties, I believe they brought in a higher caliber of players than what we've seen before and what we have on the roster. So, we'll see how it works. At least they have coaches with different ties. We need to end this Florida pipeline. It hasn't worked. You're getting guys from LSU and a guy from Texas, TCU, and that's made a huge difference so far. Nebraska needs to just expand the recruiting. You can't keep going to Florida and Georgia. Those guys aren't staying. It hasn't worked.
All right.
And then as far as the grade,
go ahead.
As far as the grade, it's more of a transfer-heavy class. But as far as the grade, give it about a B. The secondary is good. The running backs, I'm more impressed with the running backs, especially Allen. I believe Allen would be his projection to be a starter full-time. We don't have a go-to back. It's running back committee. He can be a featured back. He's got it all. Watching this film, he's really explosive. He gets to the edge. He returned punts. Yep. He's not like a north and south runner. He's a guy we need. Keep the linebackers honest. The team's starting to run a little too north and south, and it just hasn't worked. Whether it's the running back's fault or the offensive line's fault, it hasn't worked.
Right.
So he just adds another
So
dimension.
okay. Well, we'll talk about some players that we think are going to be major contributors here after we get around and give all our overall impressions of the class. Justin, why don't you go ahead and drop some knowledge bombs on us on what you think of this class?
I don't know if I have any knowledge bombs here, but thank God for the second signing day there, because this class was really lackluster headed into it. I mean, to me it was like a D plus at best class.
Right.
But getting Bonner and Allen there on the February signing day, that probably bumped us up to what I think is a C minus, or maybe even C type of class. It's really underwhelming overall compared to what Nebraska's had in my lifetime, it seems.
Oh yeah.
There's some okay gets in there, but talking about offensive line and Donovan Raiola. I heard Mike Schaefer say this past week on one of the shows that Donovan Raiola, he was unable to get even one offensive lineman on campus for an official visit. It's, I don't know. We'll see. Offensive line, defensive line. It didn't look that great, but they probably made up for it in transfers, I suppose. But yeah, that's it.
What did you say your grade was? D plus?
No, they went from D plus to maybe a C minus or C, maybe somewhere around there.
All right, I got you. How about you, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys have hit it really well. I mean, I one name that you guys haven't mentioned is Richard Torres out of Texas. As a prospect, I like Richard Torres more than Logan Smothers or Harburg. I think he is a really under the radar prospect and he fits really what Whipple's going to want to run here. You guys hit it when you guys talked about wide receivers. I think they did really well. Victor Jones is another name. I really like him. Dakotas Crawford. I think wide receivers, just the 3 high school kids they brought in, were probably as good of a high school wide receiver haul as they brought in. We'll get to more names. But to me, the reason why I'm about a C is the offensive line and defensive line, but mainly offensive line was just really underwhelming. And I know that's easy to point to we have a lot of sophomores on this roster. I think we really needed more interior linemen. The one lineman we did bring in can be a guard or center, or like Gio said, maybe he's going to go to defense. But I mean, it did seem like we could have done a little bit more at offensive line. And being that that's our weakest position group, at least last year, I really think that was just a big miss. And just before we pass on, I don't think Donovan owns all that. I think that's a lot to ask. I mean, for him to come in when you're already pretty tight on offers, there wasn't really a lot of room in this class. He could have got one more guy, maybe should have got one guy, but there wasn't he wasn't in a position. It wasn't a position to bring in 3 guys when he got hired.
No, but he was hired on December 8th. He was in a position to get somebody at least interested in coming to campus.
He could have, yeah. But I'm just saying, I don't want to. I think Justin wants to make this an indictment on his recruiting. I think there's a lot of question marks there. I don't think that we're ready to judge, jury, execution his recruiting prowess off the last month yet. So
it's been a concern when he was hired. That was the concern, and
absolutely. But he's also got 2 of the best recruiters out there to learn from. He's got Mickey Joseph and Bill Bush to learn from, along with Travis Fisher and Sean Beckton, who have done a wonderful job. Give the guy some time. I think he can do fine. I get the concern. He hasn't recruited much in his career.
At all
where he's had. Because he hasn't even had a career. I mean,
my point.
That's true. Tyler, did you
I get the concern, but
sorry.
I think he's got time to grow and time to learn.
I was grading more on
Tyler on the class. I'm sorry, Giovanni. Go ahead.
I was grading more on their emphasis, not what they didn't have. It was more so just they're emphasizing receivers and running backs and secondary, really. So I'm grading more on just the receivers that they signed. They signed some pretty good receivers. They had good offers. They signed better than what they've signed before, as far as when they signed Nance and Houston. These players, Dakotas is a much bigger name than those guys, and Bonner. They're difference makers.
This
so
reminds
I was going
me
more off that, but if we're going as far as they fill the needs, I don't think so. If you're in the Big Ten, if you see that our divisions or our rivals recruiting classes, they always include linemen. They always include
Yeah.
down linemen. It's hard to play in this conference and just completely just not include D linemen, offensive linemen. I saw Illinois' class. They needed all linemen. They have 7 in their real first recruiting cycle. 7. You can't ever have enough linemen. They can play different positions. Look at Juergens. Juergens is a tight end. He became a center. You know, that you just that part I don't understand, but that's been Frost's MO. He likes recruiting heavily towards skill players, just position players.
Yeah.
And we have a new staff, and the same thing continued.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, go right ahead.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine, Joe. You're fine. Tyler, did you ever give a grade? I didn't hear. Maybe I'm old and I missed it.
Well, I was going to say a C, and I do want to say wide receivers. I think this class reminds me a lot of the class that it was Betts and Marcus Fleming and Lonte Brown and Omar Mann. Like that to me, this is a very parallel class to that in wide receiver. And Giovanni, you mentioned linemen, and again, I think it's a miss, but we do have 6 scholarship sophomores, so it's not like we're old and we're about to be in a really rough spot. It just, again, I think they could have went out there and got a guy or two to kind of fill the need. So yeah, but I had a C. Nice, solid, average class.
All right, Derek, you're up.
I'm going to disagree with Tyler. I don't think they needed to go after high school kids. I think they did the right thing with the offensive lineman. Went and got some transfers who have a little bit of playing experience, because that's what we need. We need some development and we need some experience. We've got the numbers there. We've got talent there. I don't know that going after a bunch of true freshmen was necessarily the best idea right now. My biggest disappointment in this class was defensive line, probably way more so than offensive line to me. We ended up getting that Brody Tagaloa, who's listed as a tight end on 24/7, but I know on the scholarship distribution chart they have him listed as D line. There just wasn't much there, and I don't know if Tuioti just slacked off this year and then left, or I don't know what happened, but there was just nothing there. And we had guys transfer out, we've had guys graduate, and I mean, I love the guys that we have on the defensive line, but I think we could have used a few more there.
We could always use a pass rusher.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as far as a grade goes, I would probably go with C+. I could maybe bump it up to a B-. I think some of the guys we did get were really good gets. Ernest Hausman, I know people are kind of just like scanning over him like he doesn't count. But, I mean, here's what drives me nuts about Nebraska fans. They're pissed off when we don't get some Nebraska guys. And then when we get Nebraska guys, they're pissed off that we're getting Nebraska guys. It's like, well, he's not good enough. He's just from Nebraska.
Yeah, Hausman's
right.
my top
You're
2.
right.
It's like, what do you want? But I mean, I think Ernest Hausman, I think he's got a lot of potential. He's almost a 4-star. The offensive guys that we picked up, I think they're really good. I know a lot of them have already been named, so I won't go through them again. But I don't think it's quite as dire of a class. It was a small class. Hell, there was only 19 commits. So that's part of the reason why I think they get a lower grade. But I don't think overall it was that bad of a class.
All right, Scott, you're up.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in line with everybody's opinions about the offensive line. I do think that a lot of the reason why they didn't really push too hard on Raiola going after a bunch of freshmen is because I think really it is the make or break season for Frost. So if they can get some guys in that can make a change right now, and then the fact that we got 6 sophomores on our offensive line right now, it's not really a necessity this season to put an offensive line freshman on a recruiting board. I mean, sure, they probably would have taken one if they could have got one, but I think more importantly, Raiola needs to establish himself as a coach this season so that he can actually get himself some recruiting cred and show that, hey, you know, I showed up with very minimal experience and we showed a huge improvement. Hopefully, fingers crossed. We showed any improvement on our offensive line. And I think that we could probably pick up a few guys for the 2023 recruiting class. That's just my thoughts on the offensive line. I don't think I would have, unless we got like some top 250 like offensive line guy, I don't think a bottom of the barrel offensive line recruit would have made any of the recruiting rankings, in my opinion. The grade that I would give, I don't think it would increase it all that much unless it was like an outstanding all-American type of kid. So what I'm looking at is just the overall taste, the palette of the guys that we ended up getting through high school. It's not bad. It's not bad. Not very many guys, but I think it's because obviously we picked up a lot of guys in the portal and picked up a lot of JUCO guys. But just some names that stood out to me. Jaleel Martin. He's an athlete. He was a multi-positional guy. Where is it? Yeah. He caught 12 passes for 263 yards, for four touchdowns in 2021. But then on defense, he had 27 tackles, 1 interception, and 6 passes defended. And it's a 6A All-State selection that he ended up making. I mean, just he looks like a good guy. That's kind of one of the guys that stood out to me in the class. I know that we're gonna kind of go into top recruits, two guys, but just stuff like that. I was just putting that as a reference point. You guys basically mentioned all of the guys that I was going to talk about that makes this class fairly strong. I think it's strong considering, but ultimately I would give it like a C plus, maybe a B minus.
Okay.
Just based on, we got some pretty good talented guys, but I mean, it's not like, it doesn't stand out like any greater, any lesser than any of Frost's prior recruiting classes. That's just kind of how I look at it. It's just kind of like, it's like baseline, not really overly impressive and not under impressive, I don't think.
Well, before we signed the 2 guys on signing day, Bonner and Allen, weren't we ranked like 13th in the Big Ten?
Yeah, 13.
I think it was either 13th or dead last, one of the two.
Those 2 guys, they bumped us up to 10th in the Big Ten. And so it's really those 2 guys that really saved it. But I mean, not a great class.
It wasn't great. It wasn't horrible.
I'm kind of right in line with you guys. I'll just give my grade right up front. I'd give this class a C plus, barely, and that's only because we got those 2 4-stars that came in. Initially, if those 2 4-stars hadn't signed on signing day and we did this stream tonight, I would have given this class like a D. So because it just wasn't, we filled some needs, but at the same time, like Gio, you said, it would have been nice to see some more linemen. Defensive line concerns me. But, one of the things Frost said at the press conference is, unfortunately, nowadays, with the transfer portal and NIL and all that stuff that's going on now, small classes from high school are kind of going to be the norm. My guess is from now on, we're looking at, high school recruits being kind of like the NFL draft, where you've got a few rounds and then everybody's going to go look for free agents, known as the transfer portal. C plus is what I'm giving the class, but the fact is we really don't know how good this class is going to be. What we do know is that they, for the most part, weren't recruited by the same coaches that were here before, as Gio said. They recruited some guys in here that they want to coach. And the question now is, are these new coaches better developers based on their track record, based on the fact that they have Power 5 experience? My hope is yes. And if that is true, then this class might have some major contributors in the future, just for the sake of a little bit of context. Anybody want to guess what Patrick Mahomes' star rating was coming out of high school?
It was like
Was he
3-star, top
It was,
like
a, it was a low
1,000.
3-star.
He was a 3-star.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce, arguably the best tight end in the NFL right now, it was a 2-star. So you get guys like this that have that kind of talent under the right kind of developers. Maybe what this class is some guys that are really going to be developed properly alongside the guys that are already here. So like I said, C+ is about the only thing I can really give it. This is as positive as I can be about it, because 10th ranked class in the Big Ten, and I think I'm being generous with a C+. So anyway, unless anybody else has anything to contribute to the high school recruiting topic, is there anybody that has anything else to say?
Yeah, I have a question. So previous classes, they
Yeah,
were
go ahead.
higher rated, but the classes fell apart right away. We've lost guys, and some guys less than a year. A lot of guys less than 2 years. So the classes on paper
Sure.
were good. Say they were top 25 classes, but they didn't last at all. Do you believe at least these crop of guys, at least the top guys, they'll be more inclined to stay?
No, not with the transfer portal now.
That's
I think all classes
I-
are going to fall apart now with the transfer portal.
I would say that it's a higher likelihood, considering the coaching staff that we just got hired on, that there's a lot more trust and continuity that they could build with this new coaching staff versus the old one that we had. That's yet to be proven, but if I were to take a guess, I would say that there's probably more loyalty to be had with this new coaching staff versus previous ones. And to the point made earlier about the Florida pipeline, we've got a few guys from Florida and Georgia in this recruiting class, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to stick around if they feel actually comfortable here, and feel like they can actually get themselves recognized, I guess. But then again, they could still transfer out anyway, because that actually seems to be what the future of college football is going to be, is people join crappier, smaller schools, which unfortunately Nebraska has become a crappier school. And so why not take your talent somewhere where you can be a standout guy, and then go transfer to Oklahoma or USC or SEC school of some sort, and get a better draft stock there. I don't know.
So what I'll say is, last year we brought in 25 kids in county transfers, 20 true freshmen, or 20 enrollees. We lost 2 of them, right? So I think that the right now we're in a position we need people to leave, and they're not. And so Frost has done such a good job of keeping people around. We're in a position where, like, shit, we have too many. And so I think that
We'll see you guys leave.
there was a point in time that there was obviously a big concern about Frost's attrition. I think that is quickly becoming
the
a
Florida
moot
4.
point. Yes.
Right.
Well, just to give you some numbers there, Scott. So we have 3 guys from Georgia in this recruiting class.
Yes.
We have one from Florida.
Yeah, Florida was is that Vic? No, who am I
Victor
thinking?
Was that Victor Jones Jr.?
Yeah, it was
wasn't
Victor Jones, because he's from Orlando. Yeah.
Well,
I thought it was
why
a
don't we,
receiver.
since we're talking about players, let's go ahead and talk about the 2 players that all of us think will make a major impact in their career at NU during their 4 years here, if they're here 4 years. Because, like, for example, Wandale was here for 2 and he made a major impact. You can't say that he didn't. But if there's 2 guys that you see on this list of high school players that could make an impact, why don't you go ahead and starting with you, Giovanni, if you're ready to go, do you have 2 players on this high school recruits that you think are going to make a major impact at NU?
It's for me. So do you watch me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The first one was AJ Allen. I mentioned him already.
Mm-hmm.
He's more versatile than what we have. He reminds me of Ramir coming out of high school, at least on tape. But he's quicker. I think he'll help more getting to the edge.
He's
Okay.
He's a good pass rusher too, or good receiver. I think he fits the offense a lot better. He's different than what we have. My second one was Hausman. I like
Okay.
what I've seen from him. A local guy. He's quick. He reads the play well. He's a good run stopper. He's very athletic. We need more athletic linebackers, and he can even play on the edge. You never know. He might be a replacement for Doman. He seems like he's going to play inside, but he can play on the edge also. I like his versatility, but his speed and his tackling. He may replace Heinrich in the future. He's just a lot faster. He just adds a different dimension. So everything I've seen from him, I like so far.
Okay.
But Allen is like almost like the prize recruit, numbers wise, offers wise, just an all-purpose back. We just don't know how they'll be used. So talent wise, Allen is up there, but we haven't seen the offense. So if they use the offense, if they use running backs more than they did at Pittsburgh, then he can be helpful. Use a skill set. So, but those are my top two.
Okay. How about you, Justin?
I have Bonner and Allen. I mean, this question is really, really hard because if I look at all the existing freshmen, and I was trying to predict, who's going to make a significant impact. I mean, that's even harder. We've seen some of these freshmen, so seeing guys that we've never seen, it's really tough. I'm just going to go with the two guys that I thought that made this class. So I'm taking the easy way out there.
Okay, sounds good. How about you, Tyler?
My number one is Jaden Gold. I mean, he is a guy. If we didn't do what we did in the transfer portal, I mean, he would be a real contributor to play this year. I think that of anyone in this class, if I had to say there's our all conference guy, he is the name that pops out to me watching the tape, looking at him. My number two was going to be AJ Allen. But since you guys have both named him, and I figured that would be the case, I'm going to go out and do Applegate. You talk about him from Lincoln Southwest or East, one of the Lincoln schools. He's very versatile. I mean, right now I think he's projected to be an outside backer. I think he could become a defensive lineman. He could put on some weight. He was also a really good high school tight end. He showed some pass rushing ability, and I think that when you look at what Nebraska needs in the future, specifically with the outside linebacker core, which could get ravished at the end of the season with 3 seniors and Garrett Nelson, who very possibly could go pro at the end of the season. Like I mean, he's a junior, Justin. He is a 4-year junior. He
I
definitely,
saw Justin
he
scheming
doesn't
over
agree. Me and Justin disagree. I think Garrett Nelson's our best player, but whatever. That's a Cuzcast podcast conversation for the spring. But no, I think I like Applegate. So,
alrighty, Derek.
I like the Coldest Crawford for one of my guys. I think he's gonna be a good receiver for us. I love what he brings to the table. My other guy is probably Emmett Johnson. I think he's a little under the radar. He broke some records there in Minnesota. I think he was a very under the radar get. And I think he'll make.
Hey, Sevian Morrison broke some records in Oklahoma.
True, that's true.
Bound to hit once.
No kidding. You're up, Scott.
Yeah, I have an honorable mention, and that's Dick Torres. That's my official. I'm just always.
Oh, there goes
call
the
him
explicit
Dick.
tag. Thanks.
Well, that's his name. That's his
I
name.
know.
Can't help it. No, I think if he heals up right, I think that he is like the archetypal quarterback that Mark Whipple would want to develop if he can actually do it, and if he's actually healthy and all that stuff, and he'll be here for a long haul if he stays. So that's my honorable mention. But since he was injured, it kind of it put it down on my list of priorities. But the two guys that I had picked, number one is Janaran Bonner. Just digging into his history and his relationship with his coach John Adams. John Adams has had nothing but positive things to say about the kid. He's just a quiet kid, keeps to himself. He's not flashy at all. He just likes to put in work and reap the results. So that seems like a kid who's going to be well composed for high profile position with Mickey Joseph developing him. I think that he could definitely be here for the long haul and make a name for himself here. And then, like Tyler said, I do like Applegate. Just Nebraska grown guy, and we have seen plenty of guys on our defense, homegrown Nebraskans, that just absolutely play balls to the wall, lights out the whole time. And, Ernest Hausman is probably no different, but on the outside linebacker position, I do feel like Applegate has a really, really high ceiling, kind of underrated, but and then his multi skill set that he's got, offense and defense. He's got to have some good hands, so he could definitely jump up there and maybe get a few picks. I don't know. He just seems like a good kid.
And that's not a bad pick. I don't hate that. I don't hate that pick. Here's the thing. Luke Reimer was a damn walk-on, and now he's arguably the best defender we have.
I know and it just seems to be Nebraska blood. Guys they play hard. They play really hard. I think that Nebraska's recruiting base for the last decade or so has been criminally underrated. We have produced some insanely good players that have gone to the NFL, not just at Nebraska, like University of Nebraska, but guys that have gone elsewhere. So that's why I picked the homegrown guy. Otherwise, AJ Johnson, or is it AJ Johnson?
AJ Allen.
AJ
Allen. I was like, wait a second, that's Emmett Johnson. I got the two mixed up. AJ Allen is what you guys have described. Like, dude, he is just freaking fast, and he's very, very shifty. So that was a close second or whatever.
I'm going to go homegrown too. Go ahead.
I was between Gold. Jaden Gold, he reminds me a lot of Lamar Jackson, just his size and physicality, almost like a Marquise Dennard, just bigger. He's really good from what I've seen. I just don't know how quick they'll play, because this class has so many receivers, so many corners. But Bonner and Gold were
a lot
the
of
ones I
DBs.
left out.
Yep.
Bonner's
I'm gonna go homegrown with my first guy. I'm at Ernest Hausman is number one for me. He's got quite the story, being adopted from Africa somewhere. Uganda. Is it Uganda? Yeah. He had like an infection or something in his leg at the time that he was trying to be adopted, and it messed with the nerves in his foot and his ankles and his legs and all that stuff. He barely could walk when he was a kid, and finally gets to America. They finally come up with some treatment. He had to do horrible physical therapy to get himself to the point where he could walk and he could even run. They didn't even think he would be able to jump. And now he's like going to be a black shirt, and his story is so compelling. He said he's always grown up as a Husker fan when he got here to the States, and always his whole goal in life was to be a black shirt. He just wants to be a black shirt. That's the kind of guy that's going to play like Garrett Nelson plays, like Luke Reimer plays, like guys like that do have those Nebraska roots. It is different here. It really is. It's different here. If you get guys that are absolutely bought in and they're tried and true Nebraskans that want to play for Nebraska, they're going to play different. They're going to give more effort than the quote unquote hired guns out of the transfer portal. So Hausman's number one. I could see him being the kind of guy that's going to be the heart and soul of the defense by like 2024 at that linebacker spot. My number two guy is somebody nobody has mentioned yet, and that's Malcolm Hartzog from Mississippi. He was kind of a late get, and it was only because he's a return specialist for the most part. I think he's listed as a DB, but he played both ways, and return specialist. Shenander was down in Mississippi recruiting somebody else and literally detoured to go see this kid because all the area high school coaches kept mentioning him to him. Because they said, yeah, we just quit kicking the ball to him on kickoffs. We just decided to take the penalty by kicking it out of bounds first instead, because he returned like 11 kickoffs for touchdowns in the first 5 games of the year. And, you know, Stander went to go get him, offered him, he accepted, and he's going to be coached by Bill Bush. And to me, that means that this kid could become something pretty special. Think about this. Bill Bush, if I remember correctly, likes to run that 2 return set on kickoffs. So imagine people trying to figure out who they're going to kick to, Trey Palmer or Malcolm Hartzog. Which poison would they rather pick? And if we could figure out how to freaking block for them, you know, it could be pretty fun. So those are my 2 guys. Yeah, I think we pretty much covered the high school kids. You think we're good? Ready to move on to the next topic?
Ready.